Hey, everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
We're here for episode 8 of She-Hulk, and we finally got a long-awaited character cameo, the one everyone's been waiting for. It's been teased online. They even put together a special footage trailer just of this character's, audition, people auditioning for this character. Of course, talking about LEAPFROG. LEAPFROG's the big cameo in this episode.
Yes, 100%.
By the way, they have all the actors from She-Hulk pretending to audition for LEAPFROG. It was a big troll they did on their Twitter. Good stuff. This is the episode of She-Hulk in it. And I'll start off by just saying what I said on Twitter, which was this episode was not good because of Daredevil. It was good in spite of Daredevil, who was also very good in this episode. Like, it was a good episode, and Daredevil was cool.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. This to me felt like, again, I've said this about one or two other episodes. This felt like the show we were getting promised, which was legal drama, but lighthearted with superhero stuff. Like, if this had been the show since Burn, like, oh, okay, I'd be a lot more into this.
Like episode 2 on, if it was like this episode, even without Daredevil, the potential that this show could have been. You and I, famously, pretty much did not like the show at all from jump. I mean, I think I liked the first episode a little bit more than you do.
It was flip.
You liked episode 2?
I liked second episode better, yeah.
Which I did not. But I wasn't here to review last week's episode, but I watched that today before watching this week's episode. I was like, these are so good.
Mm-hmm. Especially back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I watched last week's. This is how I like to watch stuff. Screw the previously on, although I'll talk about this week's in a sec. I like to watch the previous weeks and then watch the new one, because I get that full, just in case there's a bridging of the gap there, and I find I appreciate it more, except for Andor, because they dropped 3 episodes on day 1. But I will say I love that it opens with her saying previously on my show. Because I've been the one tweeting things like, guys, like, yeah, I want to see Daredevil, but also remember it's not his show.
Yeah,
like, this is She-Hulk show.
Which she kind of she played with the previously on last episode too, because she was like, wait, was this person on the previously on? Oh wait, well, let's previously on this guy.
It's so good. That stuff is
that was hilarious.
It was very funny. The fourth wall breaking last week and this week were very good, and I think comedically that's where they've struggled the most, has been with the fourth wall breaks. They just haven't worked. They've felt almost like obligatory, like we're doing it because we know we have to. Yeah. But these ones worked very well, especially at the end of this episode. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll tell you what, though, they had me curious from the get-go on this episode, because when it opens up, in the top corner, it's got, the content advisory, and this time it said intense violence, strong coarse language, and intense sexual situations. And I was like,
yeah, I know.
Wait, my first reaction was, wait, is this an episode of Daredevil? Because that sounds like an episode of Daredevil.
I was just like,
what are we getting?
Is this why Disney Plus has become mature?
Right.
Ratings, the parental guidance.
And then getting to the end of it and seeing what they were referring to, this episode left me feeling a little uncomfortable at the end, and I mean that not like it was bad, but just what that was depicting.
Yeah, like what she had to deal with.
Oh, I feel gross.
I'm sure so does her father.
Look away, Dad, look away. Avert your gaze, sir. Don't look. Oh man. And it was also a little up and down. Just I'm kind of going to go in order here, because that's the order my notes are in. Is I noticed that, kind of like with a lot of episodes this season, I struggled with the CGI, but I think I kind of confirmed what my problem with the CGI was, which is that when it's her in regular people clothes it just looks off. It's with the hair and the clothes, there's a certain movement to them that you just can't really capture with CGI. It's very difficult. When she was in her superhero outfit, it looked very good because that was more crafted along with the CGI body. The stuff at the beginning where she's talking to Leapfrog, best character intro ever. I don't care what anyone said. I know he's a douche, but
I love his layers name, the lily pad.
I got a lot of notes about Leapfrog. But like when she was like in her suit with her hair, it looked very, or when she was talking to Lucas, or Luke, or whatever, it just didn't look good. But when she was like in her suit and it was meant to be just CGI action, it looked a lot better. And I think that's kind of the risk you take when you spend so much time focused on what is essentially just an extra large green person, is where the CGI kind of stuck out a little bit. I know you don't notice that kind of thing quite as much though.
Yeah, for me, there was only one time that I was like, wow, that CGI was bad. And that was like, I think like episode 3 or 4 or whatever. When she was walking down the steps, I even messaged you. I was like, whoa, that was bad.
Yeah,
I usually don't notice it. And if I'm enjoying an episode, it doesn't matter to me. CGI can be bad if a story is good.
Yeah.
For me. So and then I won't notice it. I can suspend my disbelief and just be like, yeah, this is what's going on. And that's was the case for last episode and this episode. Previous episodes, because I wasn't enjoying what I was seeing, there was moments that I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like this episode's bad and the CGI doesn't work. Like if the episode itself is good, I can forgive a lot. Like I'm not here to complain about the CGI this week, just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I was right. This is when it looks rough and when it looks good. When she was superhero She-Hulk, CGI looked really good.
Yeah. So. And I liked the way that the outfit, her superhero outfit, looked both on Jen and on She-Hulk.
And see, that was something I was missing in the wedding episode and in last week's episode with the dress she had on. Because they kept making these comments about how, oh, her clothes are going to look good on her as She-Hulk or as Jen. This was the first time that was actually true, because previous outfits she's worn, they looked 4 sizes too big for her. I was kind of like, it was
kind of like that flowy dress thing. Like it was still cute, but it was like that flowy dress thing as her as Jen, and was very form-fitting as She-Hulk. And I was thinking more it was going to be not form-fitting, but something that fit both, like the material would stretch or something.
But the superhero outfit definitely worked as far as how it looked on She-Hulk and how it looked on Jen, because She-Hulk's look is very comic booky. And so with a lot of these characters, when they introduce them, the question is, how was that gonna, like when they were introducing Captain America Sam Wilson, like how is that suit gonna look in live action? And they made it work. Same with Daredevil.
The CGI his flaps on his neck.
I know. Same with like Daredevil's yellow suit, the black and yellow suit. How is that gonna look on and I think it looked pretty good personally.
I liked it,
but I also like that they poked fun at it. We'll get to that in a sec. But what I did like, so right from the get, we get into court. We finally get some superhero legal drama stuff.
With Jen doing it too.
Yeah, with Jen being the lawyer, and Matt just tappity tap tap walks right in the room and has that typical Matt Murdock swagger, where he knows he's the coolest guy in the room. He doesn't have to see you to know it's true. And watching the two of them just try to out lawyer each other was so good. And it was only for like 3 minutes.
But I was like, this is what I want. Because Jen is such a good lawyer in the comics. I didn't read the comics before the show. And then I think 1 or 2 of our commenters like recommended something. So I was like going in and like, she's a badass lawyer in the comics. So like, I want to see her be a badass lawyer in the show. And she was this, even with her, who she was representing was not the greatest, but she was still able to be very lawyerly and be like really good at her job, which was nice to see, because we saw some cool lawyer stuff from the other female lawyer, or then like the other times that she's been in court, it's like very short here and there. You're not really seeing her um be very lawyerly, or the court being very lawyerly, like the judge or anything. You're like, this would never happen in a courtroom. Besides the Titania like going through and punching crap, but it was like, oh, this like could actually happen in a courtroom.
Yeah. But what still bummed me out though was it's only like 3 minutes long. It's still like I wrote in my notes, why is the attorney show so afraid of attorney things? And this is one of those situations where like we've commented throughout this whole season so far that about just like these episodes are just so damn short. Like there's so much more you could do if you would just give yourself the time to do it. This was the first time I was like, now I understand being mad about the episode length from the other side of the aisle, because it's like everything in here was very good, but I want more of it. And if you had just had a longer episode, I could have had more of the legal stuff, more of her and Daredevil, more of Jen and Matt, more of everything else. It's like this was very good. It's like when you go to like a fancy restaurant, like, oh, this steak is very good, but it's like that big. Like, so it was all goody yumminess, but I wanted more of it, you know.
I was fine with the pace of the show. It would have been cool like if maybe it was like 2 episodes, because I think actually the length of the show is really good, even though like the show has not been good until now. But it seems like the perfect kind of like, you know, TV sitcom length.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt the pacing was done really, really well. Yeah, it would have been cool. It would have been cool if it was like a 2-day trial. So like you get a part of the trial that was the length in this, and then like a part of a trial in another episode. It's kind of, but I was fine with it for the length and what we got from it, because I was like, oh, they're doing the things that I wanted from the show.
To your point, it kind of makes me go, okay, remember how we took time out of everything to do the wedding episode, and it was so pointless that even the fourth wall break commented on how pointless the episode was? We could have removed that episode and had this episode be a 2-parter.
Yeah. The only reasoning for like the wedding episode is to meet that guy.
Which, yeah, you get that eventually, but like in the moment. But again, there were other ways. We didn't need to take the whole episode away, because again, I think with all the legal stuff, plus with 9 episodes, give yourself 10 episodes and have every 2 episodes be legal case and then what's going on behind the scenes. Legal case for 2 episodes, as well as what's going on behind the scenes.
It shouldn't be the second to last episode where you get the Daredevil like speech. Like, even though like I think Daredevil being introduced now was fine, but like that speech of like, oh, you can help people with the law as Jen, and then help people like that the law has failed as She-Hulk, which is something that Daredevil himself does, especially in his show. So that's something that could have been like said or done earlier in this show.
It just kind of what this episode accidentally did was show us everything we could have had in the first 7 episodes.
Yeah.
We could have had her trying to have a double life, trying to be She-Hulk, and how do I do this and be a lawyer? How do I balance, having that struggle.
And how do I also not be alone by like trying to find a partner?
It just again, it's one of those, this just kind of showed me like, guys, we could have had more of this for 7 episodes. But I will say, like, from an acting standpoint, Tatiana Maslany and Charlie Cox have some of the best on-screen chemistry.
So
I normally do not want romance and all that stuff in my superhero stuff, because it usually doesn't work. I was like, somebody put on the Bow Chicka music and let's just.
Are you guys feeling this too? I'm feeling this.
Yes,
like that fourth wall. I was
literally
like, yes.
Everyone was feeling it, Jen. Are you feeling it, Mr. Krabs? It was very good, and there was a particular line that didn't hit me until the episode was over. is when she's asking him about what it's like to have his own firm. I'm predicting now this season ends with her leaving to start her own firm.
Yeah, I can see that. What would be really interesting is if she leaves for New York.
Also, yes, I'm curious.
Although, like, New York has been like
we spent a lot of time in New York, and I kind of like the idea of like setting up some kind of precursor for like the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah,
but also I feel like I think the show people know, like, there's a reason we set this show out west. Like, let's spend some time away from it, because it leads to a great joke where he's like, first of all, I love that they incorporated his music in. He's just like, I'm Daredevil. And she's just like,
who?
Okay, who? Is daring to have ketchup and mustard as your coat.
So fun. That was
them to be like, oh, fine, I'll tell Luke that. No, God, no.
And the only reason I say that is because she is an Avenger in the comics.
Yeah.
And like the Avengers are basically based in New York or upstate New York. That argument, you can see New York City from where their base is. And like there's been an argument, is that upstate New York or not? To people from New York. Yeah. Like from people from like New York City, that's upstate New York because it's north of Manhattan. To other New Yorkers, they're like, no, that's still in the southern part.
It's like how in DC Comics, how Gotham is just outside of Chicago and Metropolis is just outside of New York City. This is why Marvel was like, guys, let's just use actual cities. Yeah, it's fine. it's okay. I thought also real quick, just to mention this because I think it's going to keep coming back, but the sleazy dude, who I'm pretty sure is in some way, shape, or form behind a lot of this crap, 100% that Wakanda spear is fake.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's no way he got a vibranium Wakanda spear for $1 million, and also
they want it back.
Yeah, and also bullshit. He studied abroad in Wakanda.
Like, no, he definitely did not.
When did you do that?
Because they literally just opened up their borders, I don't think that happened.
I don't think so. They don't even have Starbucks yet there. Okoye said so. She's like, I thought when we opened up our borders, we would get, I don't know, Starbucks or something.
Right, exactly. I was just like, he's full of shit. And I love too, like, I'm billing you for the full hour. Like, I love that when she was walking. A lot of the like stuff with, because like I've talked about like in previous reviews of like the way they're treating kind of like the feminism and the like women and men and kind of like and that they were doing a really bad job with it. These last 2 episodes, they've done a really good job with it. I was like, oh, now I can realize that you do have female writers, because this is what I expect from female writers. Because like last episode, men are shitty. Men are super shitty. Like also, like he's also a bad guy and was there to like get your blood and also put a camera in your thing. But other than that,
there was a lot of things wrong with Josh.
There was a lot of things wrong with Josh, but like he also ghosted you, and that happens, and that freaking sucks. But it also showed like these other men there that were like, want to kill him? Let's kill him. Like, and the thing is, like, I've had guys who've treated me like shit, and then I've had guys who will fiercely defend my honor to like kind of be like, oh, they're fucking with you, let's go fuck this guy up. So like that seemed so realistic last episode, and then the stuff this episode too, I was like, this is realistic.
This one I thought handled it well to a point. We'll get to that when we get to that part of the episode, but both their suits looked very good. We get this awesome fight scene that happens in a parking garage, which, by the way, I'd like to address some common complaints I've seen people having online about this whole scene. The first of which is, why Daredevil use CGI and not why? Well, he's fighting a giant green CGI lady instead of street thugs, which is all he ever fought in his show. So next question. Why blind man make ha? He's made jokes always in the comics. In the comics, he's a snarky bitch, and in his show, even in his show, he cracked jokes all the time. It's just his show was an hour.
Daredevil is not just a snarky bitch. He's a petty bitch.
He's a petty, snarky bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, he was throwing shade at Frank Castle when he had him chained to a chimney. I mean, like, he's not above it.
No, but like even in the comics, that boy petty is. He's got that Catholic pettiness in him that like
my buddy
along
Ryan
with that Catholic guilt.
My buddy Ryan and I are always talking about like comparing and contrasting who the biggest assholes in Marvel Comics are, and it's always between Matt Murdock, Reed Richards, Scott Summers, like Bobby Drake. Like, all these guys are dicks. And also my final thing was people were bitching about She-Hulk and Daredevil doing it in this episode, and to which I say, in comic books there are few people in the world less horny or more horny than Matt Murdock and Jennifer Walters. They are two of the horniest characters in comic book history. In the Marvel universe, She-Hulk has basically dated everybody.
And the thing too about,
and so has Matt.
And the thing about the comics is like, just look at like the X-Men too. Like everyone's just fucking each other.
Everyone was
like,
fucking
all the time.
Everyone was fucking.
Like look at all the people.
Scott Summers and Bobby Drake were doing a lot of that fucking.
Like, and even too, like I think of like all the people Black Widow has dated, including Matt Murdock.
Like even from the Bobby Drake standpoint, Bobby Drake fucked every woman in Marvel to the point where the writers were like, we have to make him gay now. He is out of options in the comics now, so we're giving him a new a new slew of characters he can try to have sex with. Like, it's just I'm sorry guys, grow up. People do it. Who cares?
Yeah.
And Jennifer Walters and Matt Murdock are famously a couple in the comics, so get over it.
And just the fact too, where we had last episode, like just talk which I like that, like in the commercials for it or like the trailer for it, like you think that she's like that's like a confidence thing where like you actually see it and like, no, this is like everyone likes me as this, not as Jen. And so it was nice to have someone who was into me as Jen. And it's funny that it's the blind man that's into her as Jen.
That's very true.
But like he's into her as Jen and not as
he's into her, even though he can probably kind of tell what she looks like because we know how Daredevil's powers work.
Yeah.
He doesn't really. And so for him, he's like, I want to bang this chick just because she's funny and awesome. And she gets me. So it was, and that's also what I thought was very interesting about Matt's legal defense for Luke, where he's like, he works with people who didn't choose the superpowered being life, and we know he's talking about himself.
Yeah,
he didn't choose this, so he absolutely wants his identity protected. He's got a very big reason for wanting his identity protected. So that again. This is also
a little someone we saw in Hawkeye reemerge.
There's also a big world building moment when he mentions the Sokovia Accords got repealed.
Yeah, no, that too. I was just like,
dropped that.
I was like, okay.
What? Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was like that was like so casually said, and I was like that has major implications.
It really does. But it also makes sense that, in the 5 years post Thanos, they probably got rid of that pretty quick, in all honesty. So her suit looks
less regulations. I mean, if America went the way our real America did, they probably repealed a bunch of stuff.
I also noticed, so in Leapfrog's lily pad, which was just the best. First of all, y'all really don't want to fight Daredevil in a hallway.
No, I immediately thought that. I was just like, he's in a hallway. I was like, oh my god.
It's not good for anyone in this room.
Henchmen versus goons. I loved like they're different.
And I just when he walks into that, when I realized they were in a hallway, the first guy goes down, I was like, oh, they just started hearing boss music. But what I loved was two things I noticed in Leapfrog's little headquarters was he had a leapfrog signal. Did you see the leapfrog signal spotlight?
No, I did not.
right when she busts into the room, there's a spotlight with the frog on it.
Oh wait, yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
And also, I love the room is full of trampolines for him to bounce on.
The question, I didn't get a really good look at the arcade thing because I was watching it on my phone.
They were playing Frogger.
I was like, okay, so it was Frogger.
It was Frogger.
I was hoping. I was hoping that it was Frogger.
It was Frogger. And
you
also,
know, it's been really funny too, is if they, like for toddlers, the LEAPFROG stuff, that would have been cool if they had that there.
Well, so something I thought of when they were fighting, and I love they're giving each other legal advice while fighting all these goons.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm just a really big fan of legal dramas, which first of all, haha, you're in one. But I almost felt like it should have been like, I'm a big fan of like Ally McBeal, because that's what the writers have always said this show is meant to be.
Yeah.
But it just, I love, it was the whole fight in there, and then he jumps out the window. It's just like,
and the guy that hits her with the bat, and she's like, oh, you thought that would work.
It's one of those, someone's always taking a swing at a Hulk, and it's always just like, really? Really? We get to also, Luke continues to remain the best character on the show. He's just the best. It's yeah, it's fine. I'll write. I'm not a monster. Don't get bloated between now and then. It's just kind of like, itch. Okay. But in his defense, he had been slandered. So,
so kind of in the defense, like he's a fashion person. If you watch, what's the name of that movie that like has Anne Hathaway and what's her face that plays Miranda Priestley on the runway? Like that works at a fashion magazine. Like all of them act exactly like him. Prada. Devil Wears Prada. There we go.
They're all bitchy. Stanley Tucci is such a bitch in that movie. Oh my god. They're all like that. But when they're sitting and they're nudging each other and they're talking and they're flirting and it's all cute, she's like, or we could just skip all that. And I was just like, yes, get you some Devil D, girl.
No, and I love how forward Jen is. Like we saw that earlier too, was like, we can get those fries to go. Like
She-Hulk gonna smash.
Yeah, right. She's like, I smashed the building, but now I would like to smash you. Like, but it's so funny. I love kind of, and I've talked about like the different things like that was like with the way the writing has been about women, but I can say that the writing throughout has been like female sexual empowerment, like which
very sex positive when it comes to
very sex positive, which like that's nice.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I love that again, they weren't afraid to inject some real world humor into the moment with it's like, how do you get this suit off? It's like, no, seriously, how do you get that suit off in a hurry? Like that was very funny. Relatable, real world humor. That's like, that would 100% happen. He was not doing it tonight.
And the hilarity of like just all of his crap, like the nunchucks and everything on the floor. Like I laughed at that, just like every little piece of his like outfit.
I love in the post-credit scene, not the post-credit scene, because once again we got Georgia'd, but in the sketches that happened during the credits, his helmet sitting on her bedside table with just a bra draped over. We watched Daredevil do the walk of shame, y'all.
Oh, that was so funny. I was here for it.
It was not something I knew I needed in my life, but I was like, what would the morning look like for him?
Yeah, exactly. Because like he didn't have other clothes.
Yeah.
And like she doesn't have
he's like, well, look, as long as I got the mask on.
And he's carrying his shoes too, which I was just like, this is because like the female walk of shame, you're carrying your high heels. Like he could have put those shoes on, they're flat. Yeah. And he's like, nope, I'm gonna get
I know what this is. And it was one of those moments of just like, so this is what this feels like. Okay. It's because it is kind of a flip, because Matt Murdock is notoriously a hit it and quit it. Like I mean, that's just kind of how he is. Because especially we then get this moment where Jen's using the breaking the fourth wall very good. Like, why are you still here? I thought the episode was over. That
I thought she was about to do a Ferris Bueller thing.
that would have been funny too.
Go home.
But also, it was once we saw the ending of this episode, I am glad they kept going, because in that moment I realized, like, yeah, that would have been a really weird place to leave off the episode before the finale.
Yeah.
But I also love her. She's like, this episode already came to a very satisfying conclusion. Trust me. And I'm like, yes, Matt. Yes. Good boy. And also Nikki popping out with a Wolverine reference.
Yeah.
Which is the second one we've gotten in this show. Because when they first when she's looking for jobs in like episode 2 or whatever, or episode 1, whatever it was, episode 2, there's a news article on the side of a screen that talks about like man with metal claws gets in bar fight.
Yeah.
And She-Hulk and Wolverine are another very famous couple in the comic book. So that's 2 references to Wolverine we've had in this show, plus the X-Men reference we had in Ms. Marvel.
And we know that he's coming because not Daredevil, Deadpool 3.
It's also one of those, it's like that could mean nothing because it's Deadpool, so who really cares? I mean,
I really like, side tangent here, Deadpool 3 100% needs to be a musical. 100%.
Only reason I don't know if they'll do that or not is because Joker's planning on doing that for their sequel.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But DC, yeah, they could do it.
But I'm also 100% here for it. But her parents are just the worst. They're there, just like, honey, you need a jacket. Mom, why are you here? Everything about the ceremony, while I agree the set piece needed to happen, this is the only part of the episode where I'm like, I don't buy a lot of this. Because I have a very hard time a bunch of lawyers would be on board for an event like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the one part of this episode where I'm just kind of like, I get it. I don't know if a bunch of lawyers would actually allow an event like this. Like, this just feels like you'd be leaving yourself up to some kind of lawsuit.
And I think too, like, yeah, there was the snap moment of like, yeah, work twice as hard, don't get the same amount of recognition. Yeah. The fact too that, like, did none of them know that it was multiple women getting this award kind of thing? So,
I honestly don't think so.
And so that seems like unrealistic to me in like these types of award situation, that they wouldn't be like, oh, you're being awarded along with so and so, because like her thing was on, and I don't know if that's just like she's as being her like practically assistant, she has her email and that was like sent to the email, or if that was like public knowledge, that because like there was like that poster on her phone kind of thing for it. So that seemed odd to me, that it was like multiple women and they seemed not to know that the other women were also getting awarded.
Yeah, and if they did know, then and I'm blanking on the other lawyer she works with from Hamilton.
I'm forgetting her name.
If she knew about this going into it, then boo on her for not telling Jen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I don't know how it's going to play out either. And we may never get an answer, honestly. Because of everything.
I don't think we will.
Yeah, out of everything that transpired today, I that's kind of the least important detail of what happened. Because then we get into the intelligentsia guys and the Hulk King emoji thing.
She stole it from him.
It's which is very much typical, like proto anonymous, you know, Reddit and 4chan bullshit behavior. You know, it's typical incel crap like you usually see from these assholes. Like, oh, she stole and she's a slut, which I was like, whoa, where are we going with this? And then she gets revenge porn. You're muted. She gets she gets revenge porn. And that's the other there's 3 moments in this ending sequence where I'm just kind of like, number 2 is like, she's in a room full of lawyers. Like, she should be protected at this point. Like, the next episode better be nothing short of this room full of lawyers saying like, hey, who do you want to hire to sue these guys so we can get the paycheck? You know?
Yeah, and the other thing too is seeing like it was the same thing with like the Emil Blonsky, like, you know, when like he like showed, see, I can control Abomination, everyone flipped the fuck out. And I was like, I don't feel like they would flip the fuck out, and like they'd probably be like, whoa, but like they were like running away. And like that's the same thing too. She punches a screen and they are like, we gotta run away.
Well, she also, I will say, she did start to pull down part of the ceiling. You can see the ceiling start to cave in, but it was a little weird. I was like, she's been in She-Hulk form this whole time.
Yeah.
Why is everybody suddenly?
You're fine with her, but like, you want her to be She-Hulk.
Yeah, but you don't.
Yeah.
My third qualm, and maybe this is more of a, it'll get answered next week's episode. It better. How in the hell did DODC get there so quick?
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that's a plot line of next week of like, yeah, how did they get there? How did they know something was going to go on? I'm really hoping that gets answered next week.
I think I'm hoping that like it was because like there's an intelligentsia person in DODC, or like it's just another where we saw this with what's Shield with Hydra. Like, I don't trust DODC, like especially like with Marvel. Like I don't trust them at all. So I don't think they're good people or a good organization. So they 100%, it could be them who is responsible for trying to get her blood. Like I can 100% see a government agency wanting the blood from a Hulk. Like I can see that 100%. And being the ones behind Josh. Josh could be a member of DODC and partnering with. Because I mean, like, look at our own CIA who have partnered with some stuff and have created some things in other countries. Hint, 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 hint. Like, it's supposed to be this government agency that's like protecting us, but you know, like causing havoc in other countries.
DODC in the MCU very much strikes me as like what a real world, like our world, response to the existence of superpowered beings would be. Like, kind of acting being everything the United Nations didn't want the Avengers to be, which is acting unilaterally. Anybody with powers is a threat and will be treated as such, you know, guilty till proven innocent kind of thing. So I like I said, I really hope that gets answered in next week's episode, that like, yeah, somebody with an in with DODC was at the gala and called it in preemptively because they knew. I'm hoping all of this is part of some grandmaster plan, because if it's not, again, I really like this episode, but some of those little writing issues creeped through in a couple of moments. All in all, I give the episode probably like an 8 out of 10. If I'm being completely honest, I give the episode about an 8 out of 10. There's just those little things that I'm like, this is very good. Kind of same with last week. I was like, this is very good, but in the grand scheme of things, how are we playing this out? Which now, I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, but it's the penultimate episode here. There's a lot that was set up in this one. Now we're in the same boat we were in with the last couple Marvel series, which is y'all got one episode left. And if we're being completely honest, you're just now getting to the plot.
Yeah. So, and I think too, my enjoyment of the show, and it's weird that it's going to be on the last episode. If the last episode is as good as these previous 2 episodes, then I'm going to say this show's a good show. Because in some ways, like these last 2 episodes make certain things better. Like the things with Josh in last episode make stuff better from the wedding episode. They're like, oh, like they needed to meet somewhere, so like it makes certain things make sense. Which is why too, like when doing these reviews, it's like, okay, let's see where it goes from here. I hope that I eat crow by the end of this because the show becomes good. So I'm hoping for the next episode to be just as good or even better than these last 2.
Me too. I don't know. It's going to depend on just how good the episode is going to evolve whether or not my feelings evolve on this show. Because out of 9 episodes so far, I've really liked one, I've liked one, and I've kind of liked one, and the rest I have not enjoyed at all. So depending on how the finale goes, like unless it just crushes, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I'll tell you what I do plan on doing is once the show is over and I know how it ends, I want to go back because they're short episodes. I want to go back and rewatch the whole thing and see if like there are things that were teased early on that come full circle by the end, that because they're so spaced out, they're so spaced out that maybe I just didn't catch.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm ready to call this show a win, an overall win for me yet, because I mean mathematically we're less. I've liked less than half the episodes. So
I mean, think about it. Like I really liked 2 episodes, so this episode and the previous one, and I kind of liked the first episode. So if tomorrow's episode smashes, that's 4 out of 9. That's less than 50%. Like batting under 500. Like
it's gonna depend. It's really gonna depend on just fun. But again,
how good it is.
That takes me back to my original point, which is like I got 1 episode, and these shows, even the ones I've liked, have been notorious for trying to sprint to the end in the last episode. And this show has the shortest episodes out of all the series they've had so far. So once again, we have a lot of story to tell in under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I am this now for the first time this season. I am excited to see what happens next. That hasn't happened before. I've been morbidly curious, but not like excited.
I mean, if I watched the last episode last week, I would have said that I would have had excitement for this episode because I really did like last week's. But I watched both of them today, so
true. That's true. Last week's just kind of got me more on board with the show. This was the first one that had me going like, what is happening next? But again, this just feels like the show we got promised in the beginning. Before we go, I will say predictions. Do we see Bruce come back next episode?
I think we need to see Bruce. I don't think we're gonna see Daredevil next episode. I don't
think so either.
I think he's off back to New York. I have a feeling like that Bruce, even wherever he is in space, is going to hear about, or like maybe he's on his way back from whatever he was doing. Who knows how long? That's the other thing with the show. We don't know what the time frame has been in the show, how long it's been. Has it been a month, few months, a few weeks? Who knows?
Busy couple of weeks. Been a busy couple of weeks.
Right, exactly. So the question really, I think, if it's been like several months and like he went to go do something and then is on his way back, like he could be like, oh, she's in trouble and I need to go help my cousin, and piss off all those like incels who are like, she stole from him, if he's helping her out.
Yeah. I think he's going to come back mostly because the show started with the two of them together. And even though it is her show, it does seem fitting that it would end with the two of them together. Not only that, but a lot of the things Bruce was warning her about that come with being a Hulk happened in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, there will come a time where they're going to look at you like a monster and it's not going to be fun. And it's gonna hurt. Like, you got to know how to deal with that. And she was all
by a flip of a switch.
Fine. I've got it. I'm good. She's not good.
No.
And part of being a solid all around person is being able to admit when you're not good. She's not in a good place right now. I think
she was able to admit it last week too in that whole. So
one of the best scenes in the whole series was that therapy session.
Exactly. And I love too. I think even you and I and some other people thought about like, oh, Emil Blonsky's not gonna be like, is gonna come back and be bad. I'm like, no, he's turned over a new leaf. He's a good guy now.
I am curious though, because in the trailers they kept showing this shot of him as Abomination in his like retreat, little white retreat getup. We haven't seen that yet.
I think he might.
I also think that story about the chicken was bullshit.
Yeah, I think he's gonna come to her defense as well.
Oh, really? You think so?
Yeah.
I think
I could be wrong. Maybe he is evil, but you know, like at first I was like, nah, he's still a bad guy. He's just, but like after that last episode and just the way he was around the other people, I'm like, I think he actually is good now. He's convinced me. So I hope that shot is him actually coming to her rescue.
Here's what I will say. When they announced the Thunderbolts at D23, everyone was kind of shocked Abomination wasn't there. Especially because we, as of right now, we don't have Thunderbolt Ross. There's a rumor going around that they're talking to Harrison Ford to replace William Hurt because William Hurt passed away. I don't know how much validity there is to any of that, because they also said we were going to get casting announcements for Fantastic Four at D23, which we didn't, which is fine. So I wonder if people were shocked that Abomination wasn't announced as part of the Thunderbolts, given that they knew he was going to be in She-Hulk, and everybody assumed at that point he was going to be a villain. What if he is going to be in Thunderbolts, and the reason they didn't announce it at D23 was to avoid spoiling the ending of She-Hulk, and that after She-Hulk ends, like, by the way, we got you.
Yeah, I 100% can see that being the case.
But like I said, that's just kind of cycles back once again to my main concern for what next week is. Like, y'all got a lot to wrap up in under 30 minutes. And if I don't get a post-credit scene in this finale, I'm going to freak out.
Which is funny that like we got a lot of post-credit scenes at the beginning and then now have not been getting any.
It's become a thing because I watch a lot of reaction channels. Everyone's reaction, usually when an episode for a show ends, their reaction ends and they go into their overall review. Every reaction channel I watch has them sitting through the credits waiting to see if they're going to get Georged or not, because we're all going to get Georged because we haven't had one since episode 4. And it's become one of those things.
I just scroll.
You can't unless you're watching it on a TV like me, in which case the Disney Plus app sucks when it comes to fast forwarding and rewinding.
Phone or on laptop.
Yeah,
scroll.
I like to watch the show in my pajamas in the morning when I eat breakfast, so it's fine. Yeah. So we'll see. A lot of stuff to wrap up for next week, but I know we've been talking for a long time on this, but there's a lot to cover. Very good episode. Lots of things to wrap up next week. We'll see. I am optimistic for the first time this season. I am very optimistic, but reserved.
Question: do we show Bogz this episode? Because obviously he's not going to like any of the other episodes. Do we show him this episode?
I would show him this one and last week. I would show him those 2 episodes back to back, because you get great acting from Tatiana Maslany, great writing. And I think that this episode pairs very well with last week's.
Yeah.
It's like some fava beans and a nice Chianti. It's great. No, yeah, because I mean, this is definitely not a show. Same thing I've been saying about Andor. It is not a show for everybody. But there's enough of kind of that general MCU yumminess in these last 2 episodes that I think that if you can't at least admit you like these 2 episodes, there is no pleasing you. Because I think these were objectively very, very well written and very well done episodes.
Yeah, 100%. The writing definitely improved, and the acting has always been there.
It's always been writing. It's always been a writing issue.
But it always seems like when it's good writing, the acting just seems even better.
Yeah, because even a good actor can make something out of a turd. You know, just but when they're given something to actually work with, it really shows how good all these people are. So, but yeah, that's what we think, guys. We talked about it for a while, and hopefully you've listened, because we had a lot of things to talk about, and I'm sure you do too. So let us know what you think down in the comments, and we'll see you guys again next time for another episode of Off the Wall.